14 years. 14 Valentine's days. 14 letters. Each one appearing at my door like clockwork. Beautiful handwriting. Thoughtful words. Unsigned. For 14 years, I wondered who was watching my life closely enough to know the small details. The big moments. The quiet struggles I thought no one noticed. This morning, I found the 14th letter. And for the first time in 14 years, it was signed. When I read the name, everything I thought I knew changed. Because the person who'd been writing to me all these years, I'd been seeing him every single day. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I'm 42 years old. I teach English at Riverside High School. I live alone in a small house on Maple Street, and I've spent the last 14 years trying to figure out who keeps leaving letters at my door. This morning started like every Valentine's Day for the past 13 years. I woke up early, made coffee, and walked to my front door expecting to find it. The letter. Always there before sunrise, always in a cream-colored envelope, always in that same elegant handwriting. And there it was. Letter number 14. I picked it up with hands that weren't shaking anymore. After 13 years, I'd gotten used to this ritual. The mystery had become part of my life, like the morning coffee or the evening news. But when I opened this one, my hands started shaking after all. Because at the bottom, for the first time ever, there was a signature. Michael. Just that. One name. Written in that same beautiful handwriting I'd been studying for 14 years. Michael. And suddenly, I knew exactly who it was. To understand why that name hit me like a lightning bolt, I need to tell you about the first letter. The first one arrived 14 years ago on Valentine's Day, 2011. 1 year after my husband died. Tom Mitchell, my high school sweetheart, my best friend, the love of my life. We'd been married for 15 years when a drunk driver ran a red light on Valentine's Day, 2010. He was gone before the ambulance arrived. That first year after his death was the darkest period of my life. I went through the motions, teaching my classes, grading papers, pretending to be functional. But inside, I was hollow. Valentine's Day 2011 was approaching, and I dreaded it. Everyone at school was buzzing about flowers and chocolates and romantic dinners, and all I could think about was the anniversary of losing Tom. I decided not to go to work that day. I couldn't face the red hearts and happy couples. That morning, I woke up crying. Again. I made coffee with shaking hands and wondered how I was going to survive the day. That's when I heard something slide under my door. I walked over and found the first letter. The envelope was cream-colored, expensive-looking. My name was written on it in beautiful cursive handwriting. No return address. No stamp. Someone had hand-delivered it. I opened it with curiosity cutting through my grief for just a moment. Inside was a single page, also cream-colored, also written in that elegant hand. Dear Sarah, it began. I know today is difficult. I know you're hurting in ways that words can't touch. But I wanted you to know that someone sees your strength, the way you keep showing up, The way you keep caring about your students, even when your own heart is broken. The way you smile, even though I know it costs you everything. You are not alone in your grief. And you are not alone in the world, even though I know it feels that way. Tom was lucky to have been loved by you. And someday, when you're ready, you'll find that there's room in your heart for new joy. Not to replace what you lost, but to sit beside it. Until then, know that you're thought of. Today and every day. With respect and admiration. There was no signature, no name, nothing to tell me who had written it. I read it 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Someone had seen me, really seen me. Not the mask I wore at school, but the broken person underneath. And somehow, that helped. Over the years, I'd built a quiet life for myself. I still taught English at Riverside High, the same school where Tom had taught history before he died. I loved my students, loved watching them discover Shakespeare and Steinbeck and their own voices through writing. I had friends, a book club that met monthly, colleagues I'd grab coffee with, my sister Emily, who called every Sunday and tried to set me up on dates I always politely declined. I had my small house on Maple Street with its garden that I tended on weekends. My cat, Austin, who was terrible company but excellent at taking up space on my bed. My routines and rituals and comfortable rhythms. It was a good life. Not the life I'd planned, but a good one nonetheless. And every Valentine's Day, like clockwork, a letter appeared. The second year, the letter mentioned a lesson I'd taught about To Kill a Mockingbird and how one of my students had told me it changed how he saw the world. You're changing lives, the letter said, even when you don't realize it. The third year, it mentioned my garden. I noticed the roses are blooming early this year. They're beautiful, but not as beautiful as the care you put into making things grow. Year after year, the letters came, each one showing me that someone was paying attention. Someone noticed when I got my hair cut. Someone knew when I'd had a hard week with difficult students. Someone saw when I was struggling and when I was thriving. I kept every single letter, 13 of them, stored in a wooden box in my bedroom. Sometimes I'd take them out and read them, trying to decode the clues about who was writing them. My sister thought it was romantic. My best friend thought it was creepy. I thought it was both. But mostly, I thought it was kind. Someone out there cared enough to make sure I knew I wasn't invisible, that I mattered. That my life, ordinary as it seemed to me, was being witnessed and valued. I'd spent years trying to figure out who it was. A neighbor? A parent of one of my students? Someone from my book club? Maybe even another teacher at school? I'd studied the handwriting, analyzed the details, made mental lists of possibilities. But I'd never once suspected Michael Chen. Michael was the school librarian. He'd been hired 2 years after Tom died, filling a position that had been open for months. I remembered the day he arrived, quiet, polite, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses and a gentle way of moving through the chaos of high school hallways. He was 45 now, 3 years older than me. He'd never married, or at least he wasn't married now. He lived alone, drove a sensible sedan, and seemed to know everything about books. We'd worked together for 12 years. 12 years of professional politeness. Friendly hellos in the hallway. Occasional collaboration when I needed his help finding resources for my classes. Small talk in the faculty lounge about weekend plans and summer reading lists. I liked him. Everyone did. He was thoughtful, intelligent, never pushy or intrusive. He remembered students' names and which books they'd liked. He stayed late to help kids who needed a quiet place to study. But we weren't friends. Not really. We were friendly colleagues, nothing more. At least, that's what I'd thought. Now, sitting in my living room with the 14th letter in my hands, I was seeing everything differently. Michael. He'd been writing to me for 14 years, which meant he'd started 2 years before he even worked at my school. How is that possible? If you're already invested in Sarah's story, please hit that subscribe button now. We post heartwarming, clean romance audiobooks regularly, perfect for anyone who believes in second chances and the power of patient love. Now let's find out how Michael knew Sarah before he worked at her school. I spent the morning reading through all 14 letters again, laying them out on my coffee table in chronological order, studying them like the English teacher I was, looking for patterns and meanings and clues I'd missed. The first letter, the one that arrived a year after Tom died, mentioned knowing Tom. Tom was lucky to have been loved by you, it had said. I'd assumed it was someone from Tom's life. A colleague from school, maybe, or a friend from college. But Michael hadn't worked at our school when Tom was alive. Unless. I grabbed my laptop and did something I should have done years ago. I Googled Michael Chen. His LinkedIn profile came up. Bachelor's degree in English literature from State University. Master's in library science. Previous position, reference librarian at State University Library. State University, where Tom had gone to college. Where Tom had been, according to the stories he'd told me 100 times, the president of the literary magazine and the unofficial mayor of the library's third-floor study rooms. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and called my sister. Emily, I said when she answered. Do you remember Tom talking about someone named Michael from college? Good morning to you too, she said with a laugh. And no, why? The letters, I said. I know who's been sending them. Oh my God, finally. Who? Michael Chen, the librarian at school. There was a pause. Sarah, I don't think Tom ever mentioned anyone named Michael. Are you sure? He signed the latest letter, and he went to state with Tom. He must have known him there. So what are you going to do? That was the question, wasn't it? What was I going to do? I spent the weekend in a strange fog of emotions. Part of me wanted to march up to Michael first thing Monday morning and demand answers. Why had he been writing to me? How had he known Tom? Why had he kept it secret for so long? But another part of me was afraid. Afraid of what the answers might be. Afraid of changing the comfortable distance we'd maintained for 12 years. Afraid of what it meant that someone had been paying such close attention to my life. Monday morning arrived too quickly. I got to school early, as I always did, and headed straight for the library. Michael was there, of course. He was always there early, shelving books or updating the catalog or preparing for the day. He looked up when I walked in, and for just a second, something flickered across his face. Recognition? Nervousness? I couldn't tell. "Good morning, Sarah," he said, his voice as calm and gentle as always. "Michael." I walked closer, my heart pounding. "Can we talk?" He set down the books he'd been holding. "Of course. Is everything okay?" "I got your letter," I said quietly. The color drained from his face. "Ah, you signed it this time." "I did." "Why?" He took off his glasses and cleaned them with his shirt, a nervous gesture I'd seen him do 1,000 times. "Because 14 years seemed long enough to hide." "How did you know, Tom?" He put his glasses back on and looked at me directly for the first time. "We were roommates. Freshman year at State. Before he met you." The world tilted slightly. "Roommates?" "Best friends, actually. For that 1 year. Then he transferred to the education program and moved to a different dorm, and we lost touch. But that year, we were close." "He never mentioned you," I said, and immediately regretted how that sounded. "I'm not surprised. We fell out of contact, and he had a whole new life after he met you. But I never forgot him." Michael paused. "And when I saw his obituary 14 years ago, I came to the funeral. You wouldn't remember there were so many people there. But I saw you. I saw how destroyed you were. And I couldn't stop thinking about it." "So, you started writing to me?" "Not right away. That first year, I just thought about you sometimes. Wondered how you were doing. Then, when the first anniversary came around, I wanted to let you know that someone remembered him, that someone cared. So, I wrote the first letter." "And then you applied for the job here," I said slowly. He nodded. 2 years later, I told myself it was because it was a good position. Better pay, closer to my family. But honestly, I wanted to see you, to make sure you were okay. "And you kept writing?" "For 12 more years. "I did." "Why?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Because every year I told myself I'd stop. That it was strange that I should just tell you who I was. But I saw how much the letters meant to you. I saw you smile when you read them. And I didn't want to take that away by making it complicated with reality." "So, why sign this one?" He smiled sadly. "Because I'm tired of hiding. And because 14 years is long enough to wait." "Wait for what?" But before he could answer, the first bell rang and students started flooding into the library. "We should talk more," Michael said. "But not here. Would you maybe want to get coffee after school?" I should have said no. I should have told him I needed time to think. Instead, I heard myself say yes. I couldn't focus on teaching that day. My students probably noticed, but they were kind enough not to comment when I asked them to read silently for half the period instead of discussing the homework. All I could think about was Michael and the letters. And the fact that for 12 years he'd been watching me. Not in a creepy way, at least. I didn't think so. But watching nonetheless. Noticing when I struggled. Celebrating when I succeeded. Paying attention to the small details of my life in a way no one else did. During my planning period, I pulled out my phone and reread the letters I'd photographed over the years. The 5th letter had mentioned a student I'd helped through a difficult time. I saw the way you stayed late to tutor Marcus last week. The way you believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. That's the kind of teacher, the kind of person that changes the world one life at a time. The seventh letter had been about my garden again. Your garden is blooming beautifully this year. I especially love the daisies by your mailbox. They're cheerful, resilient, and they make me smile every time I drive past. Like you. Drive past. He'd driven past my house. Multiple times, apparently. Should that bother me? I didn't know. The 10th letter had been different. More personal. I know you think you're just going through the motions sometimes, that your life is small and unremarkable. But from where I stand, your life is extraordinary. You've taken grief that would have destroyed most people and used it to become more compassionate, more present, more real. That takes a strength most people never find. Reading it now, knowing it was Michael, I could almost hear his voice saying the words. Gentle, sincere, kind. The 13th letter, just last year, had included a quote from one of my favorite poets, Mary Oliver. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? And underneath it, I hope this year brings you closer to answering that question. And I hope the answer includes joy. Now, sitting in my empty classroom, I wondered if he'd been asking himself the same question. What was he planning to do with his one wild and precious life? And why had he spent 14 years of it watching mine from a distance is less than #2. 0# is greater than... We met at the small cafe 3 blocks from school. Michael was already there when I arrived, sitting at a table by the window with 2 cups of coffee in front of him. I got you a latte, he said as I sat down. That's what you usually order, right? Of course he knew what I usually ordered. He'd been paying attention for 14 years. Thank you, I said, wrapping my hands around the warm cup. We sat in silence for a moment. Outside, the February afternoon was gray and cold, with a hint of rain in the air. Inside, the cafe was warm and smelled like coffee and cinnamon. I don't know where to start, Michael said finally. Tell me about Tom, I said. Tell me about your friendship. His face softened. He was the first real friend I made in college. I was shy, awkward, buried in books. He was outgoing, confident, everyone's friend. But for some reason, he decided I was worth befriending. That sounds like Tom, I said quietly. He used to drag me to parties I didn't want to go to. Made me join the literary magazine with him. Convinced me that life was meant to be lived out loud, not hidden in library stacks. Michael smiled at the memory. He changed my life, honestly. Made me braver than I'd ever been. What happened? Why did you lose touch? Life happened. He transferred programs, moved dorms, met you sophomore year, and fell completely, utterly in love. Michael looked at me. He talked about you constantly. Sarah this, Sarah that. I'd never seen him so happy. My throat tightened. I miss him, I whispered. I know you do. Michael reached across the table, then seemed to think better of it and pulled his hand back. That's why I started writing. I wanted you to know that his life mattered, that his death mattered, that you weren't alone in remembering him. But you kept writing long after that first anniversary. The letters weren't about Tom anymore. They were about me. Yes. Why? He took off his glasses and set them on the table. Without them, his eyes looked darker, more vulnerable. Because somewhere between that first letter and the fifth or sixth one, I realized I wasn't just writing to honor my friend's memory. I was writing because I'd fallen in love with you. The cafe seemed to go quiet. Or maybe it was just that all I could hear was my own heartbeat. You barely know me, I said. I know you better than you think. I've watched you teach with passion and patience for 12 years. I've seen you comfort students who were struggling and challenge the ones who were coasting. I've noticed the way you stop to help the custodian pick up dropped papers, the way you always remember to ask about people's families, the way you never eat lunch alone if you see someone else sitting by themselves. He put his glasses back on. I know you love rainy Sundays and hate morning meetings. I know you reread your favorite books every year and you cry during the last scene of Les Mis no matter how many times you've seen it. I know you're stronger than you believe and kinder than you realize. That's not knowing me, I said, my voice shaking. That's observing me. Maybe. But observation is how love starts, isn't it? Noticing, paying attention, caring about the small things. Why didn't you ever say anything? Why hide it for so long? At first, because you were grieving. It would have been inappropriate, disrespectful. Then, as time went on, because I was terrified, what if you didn't feel the same way? What if knowing it was me ruined the one connection we had? What if you were angry that I'd been watching, writing, caring from a distance? I am angry, I said. He flinched. I understand. I'm angry that you didn't give me the choice to know, that you made this decision for both of us. You're right. His voice was quiet. I'm sorry. We sat in silence again. Outside, it started to rain. I need time, I said finally. I need to think about all of this. Of course. He stood up, gathering his coat. Take all the time you need. I've waited 14 years. I can wait longer. He started to leave, then turned back. Sarah? For what it's worth, I don't regret the letters. Only the hiding. You deserve to know the truth sooner. Then he was gone, leaving me alone with my latte and 14 years of questions I didn't know how to answer. What do you think Sarah should do? Would you forgive Michael for keeping the secret? Or is 14 years of hiding too much? Drop a comment and let me know. And if you're invested in their story, don't forget to like this video. Now, let's see what Sarah decides. I spent the next week avoiding Michael as much as possible at school. It wasn't hard. Our paths didn't cross unless I made them, and I very deliberately didn't make them. But I couldn't stop thinking about him. Or the letters. Or the fact that someone had loved me quietly and patiently for 14 years. You need to talk to him, my sister Emily said over the phone. I don't know what to say. Start with how you feel. I don't know how I feel, I admitted. I'm angry and confused and weirdly touched and scared. Scared of what? That was the question, wasn't it? I was scared of a lot of things. Scared of opening my heart again after protecting it for so long. Scared of what it would mean to love someone who wasn't Tom. Scared of failing at love again, even though Tom's death hadn't been a failure, it had been a tragedy. But most of all, I was scared of what I was starting to realize. I was falling for Michael. Maybe I'd been falling for him all along, in small ways I hadn't let myself acknowledge. The way my day felt a little brighter when I saw him in the hallway. The way I found excuses to stop by the library. The way I'd catch myself smiling at something he'd said hours earlier. I told myself it was just friendly colleague appreciation. But now, knowing he'd been the one writing those letters, the letters that had sustained me through my darkest years, everything felt different. Sarah? Emily's voice pulled me back. You still there? I think I might love him, I whispered. There was a pause. Then Emily said gently, then maybe it's time to tell him that. Chapter 10, The Library, After Hours. I found Michael in the library after school the next day. The students had all left, and he was alone among the stacks, shelving returned books with that careful, methodical way he had of doing everything. Michael, I said from the doorway. He turned, and I saw hope and fear war on his face. Sarah. Hi. Can we talk? Always. He set down the books and came closer, but not too close. Giving me space. The way he always did. I've been reading the letters, I said. All of them. Over and over. And I need to know something. I took a breath. Why now? After 14 years, why did you finally sign the letter? Is less than Hasson. 0 hash is greater than... He looked at me for a long moment. Because I saw you at the faculty meeting last month laughing at something Joan said, and I realized how much time I've wasted hiding. How many moments I've missed because I was too afraid to be honest. 14 years is a long time to be afraid, I said quietly. It is. And I'm done being afraid. He took a small step closer. I love you, Sarah. I've loved you for so long that I barely remember what it felt like not to love you. And I know I went about this all wrong. I know I should have been braver, should have been honest from the start. But I don't regret loving you. I only regret not telling you sooner. My heart was pounding. I'm not the person you think I am. You're exactly the person I think you are. You're brilliant and kind and stronger than you know. You're also stubborn and too hard on yourself, and you never accept compliments gracefully. He smiled. But that's all part of who you are. And I love all of it. What if I can't love you back the way you want? The question came out raw, honest. What if I'm still too broken from losing Tom? Then we'll figure it out together. Or we won't, and we'll stay friends. But Sarah, you're not broken. You're scarred. There's a difference. How? Broken things can't hold anything. But scars? Scars are just evidence of survival, of healing. Your heart isn't broken. It's been wounded and it's healed stronger than before. Strong enough to hold new love alongside old memories. I felt tears on my cheeks. What if I hurt you? What if you don't? He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away. When I didn't, he gently wiped a tear from my cheek. What if we're both scared and we try anyway? What if it's wonderful? I don't know how to do this, I whispered. Neither do I. I've been in love with you from a distance for so long, I have no idea how to be in love with you up close. He smiled softly. But I'd like to learn, if you'll let me. I looked at him, really looked at him. Michael Chen, with his kind eyes and gentle smile and 14 years of patient, quiet love. Michael, who had seen me at my worst and loved me anyway. Who had watched me rebuild my life piece by piece and celebrated every small victory. Who had been there in the background for more than a decade. I'm scared, I said. Me too. But I want to try. His face lit up like sunrise. Yeah? Yeah. I took his hand, feeling the warmth of his fingers intertwining with mine. But we go slow. Really slow. As slow as you need, he promised. I've waited 14 years. I can be patient. You're sure about this? About me? He lifted our joined hands and pressed a kiss to my knuckles. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Our first official date was dinner at a quiet Italian restaurant the following Saturday. Michael picked me up at 7, wearing a navy blue sweater I'd never seen him wear to school and holding a bouquet of daisies. From my garden? I asked, recognizing them. He had the grace to look embarrassed. From the florist. But I asked for daisies specifically because I know they're your favorite. How do you know that? Letter number 7. You planted them that year, and I mentioned how cheerful they looked. You wrote back. Wait. I stopped him. I never wrote back. Not directly, but I noticed you planted more the next year. That felt like an answer. Over dinner, we talked for hours. Really talked, not the polite colleague small talk we'd been doing for 12 years. We talked about our childhoods, our dreams, our fears. He told me about growing up as an only child, about the loneliness of being the quiet kid who lived in books. I told him about my boisterous family, my 3 sisters, my parents who'd been married for 50 years. What made you become a librarian? I asked. Books saved me when I was young. Gave me friends and adventures and a sense that the world was bigger than my small town and my small life. I wanted to do that for other people, especially kids who felt as alone as I did. You're good at it, I said. The students love you. I love them. And I love this job. Even though I took it partially to be near you, it turned out to be exactly where I was supposed to be. Do you regret it? All those years of just watching? He considered this. I regret not being braver sooner, but I don't regret the watching. Those letters were my way of loving you when I couldn't figure out how to love you out loud. They weren't perfect, but they were real. They were perfect, I said quietly. They kept me going when I didn't think I could. Over dessert tiramisu we shared, he told me more about his friendship with Tom. He was so alive, Michael said. Everything he did at full volume. Full joy. He made everyone around him feel like they mattered. Like life was this amazing gift we were all lucky to have. That's exactly who he was, I said, smiling through tears. Thank you for remembering him that way. I think he'd be happy about this, Michael said. About us. What makes you think that? Because he loved you more than anything. And he wouldn't want you to spend the rest of your life alone. He'd want you to be happy. Michael reached across the table and took my hand. And I promise you, Sarah, making you happy will be my life's work if you'll let it. I squeezed his hand. You're already doing a pretty good job. The next few months were a revelation. Falling in love in your 40s is different from falling in love in your 20s. It's slower, more intentional. You know yourself better. You know what you need, what you can give, what you're willing to compromise on, and what you're not. Michael and I took it slow, like I'd asked. We went on dates, dinners, movies, walks in the park. We talked for hours about everything and nothing. We discovered we both loved old movies and terrible puns and Sunday mornings with coffee and the newspaper. We also discovered our differences. He was methodical, where I was spontaneous. I was social, where he was introverted. He liked everything organized and planned. I thrived in a little bit of chaos. But somehow our differences complemented each other. At school, we kept things professional. We'd agreed not to make it public yet, not until we were sure this was real and lasting. So we were still just colleagues in the hallways, still just friendly when students were around. But in private, we were something entirely different. One evening, about 3 months into our relationship, we were sitting on my porch watching the sunset. It was May, and the garden was in full bloom. I have something for you, Michael said, pulling an envelope from his jacket pocket. It was cream-colored. That familiar, beloved cream color. Another letter? I asked. The last one, he said. I won't need to write them anymore, because now I can tell you everything in person. I opened it with hands that were steadier than they'd been with the 14th letter. Dear Sarah, it read. For 15 years, 14 in secret and 1 in the open, I've loved you. Watching you teach, watching you grow, watching you rebuild yourself into someone even stronger than before. These letters started as a way to honor a friend. They became a way to love you from a distance. But now I don't want distance anymore. I want to wake up next to you. I want to share Sunday mornings and Tuesday night dinners and every ordinary moment in between. I want to be there for your bad days and your good days and all the unremarkable days that make up a life. I know it's soon. I know we're still learning each other. But I also know I've never been more certain of anything. Sarah Mitchell, will you marry me? I looked up from the letter to find Michael on one knee, holding a simple gold band. I know this is fast, he said, and I'll wait as long as you need. But I also know that I don't want to waste any more time hiding how I feel or waiting for the perfect moment. This moment right here with you is already perfect. My heart was full to bursting. Yes, I said, tears streaming down my face. Yes, I'll marry you. He slipped the ring on my finger, and then he was kissing me, and the sunset was painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, and my garden was blooming all around us. And for the first time in 15 years, my heart felt completely, wholly, joyfully full. If you're crying happy tears right now, you're not alone. This is what love is supposed to feel like: patient, kind, and worth the wait. If you've enjoyed Sarah and Michael's journey, please subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming romance stories. And now, let's see how their story ends. We got married in June in my garden, surrounded by friends and family and flowers. It was small and simple and perfect. My sisters were bridesmaids, and Michael's college buddy flew in to be best man. We wrote our own vows, and I only cried a little bit. Okay, I cried a lot. but they were happy tears. Now it's Valentine's Day again. Our first Valentine's Day as husband and wife. I wake up to find Michael already awake, propped up on one elbow, watching me. "Good morning, Mrs. Chen," he says softly. "Good morning, Mr. Chen." I still haven't gotten used to my new name, but I like the way it sounds. "I have something for you," he says, reaching for the nightstand. "If it's another letter?" "It's not a letter." "Well, not exactly." He hands me a book. Not a published book, but a handmade one bound in cream-colored leather. Inside are all 15 letters, every single one carefully preserved and arranged in chronological order. And after them, pages and pages of new entries. "What is this?" I ask. "Our story," he says. "I've been writing it down. Everything from that first letter to this morning. Every date, every conversation, every moment, I fell more in love with you." I flip through the pages, seeing our courtship laid out in his beautiful handwriting. The dinner where we talked for 4 hours. The rainy Sunday we spent reading side by side. The night I first said, "I love you." "This is incredible," I whisper. "I wanted you to have it. So you could see what I see when I look at you. So you could know how extraordinary our ordinary moments are." I set the book aside and pull him close. "I love you so much." "I love you too. Have I told you that today?" "It's only been 3 minutes since I woke up, so no." "Well, let me remedy that." He kisses my forehead, then my nose, then my lips. "I love you, Sarah Chen. Today and every day. For all the days we have left." Later, over coffee and homemade pancakes, I ask him, "Do you think you'll keep writing now that we're married?" "Of course, but not letters. Now I'm writing our life together. Every chapter, every page, every Valentine's Day, I add. Especially every Valentine's Day." That afternoon, we visit Tom's grave. It's something I've done every Valentine's Day for 15 years, and I was worried Michael might feel strange about it. But he didn't hesitate when I asked if he wanted to come. We stand together in front of the simple gray headstone. I place a bouquet of daisies, Tom's favorite, at the base. "Hey, Tom," I say softly. "I brought someone to meet you." Well, to reintroduce myself to you, I guess. Michael steps forward. "Hey, buddy. It's been a long time. I hope you'd be okay with this. With me loving Sarah, I promise I'll take care of her. The way you would have if you could." I take Michael's hand and we stand there together in the February cold. And I swear I can almost feel Tom's approval, like a warm breeze on a winter day. "Thank you," I whisper to the headstone, "for loving me first, and for bringing Michael into my life, even if it took a while for us to find each other." As we walk back to the car, Michael pulls me close. "Are you okay?" "I'm more than okay," I say. "I'm happy. Really, truly happy." "Good. That's all I've ever wanted." That night, as we're getting ready for bed, I notice the cream-colored envelope on my pillow. "I thought you said no more letters," I say. I lied. One more. I promise this is the last secret one. I open it, already smiling. "Dear Sarah, asterisk. 15 years ago today, I wrote you a letter because I wanted you to know you weren't alone. Add an asterisk. Today, I'm writing to tell you that you'll never be alone again. I will be here for every Valentine's Day for the rest of our lives. Not leaving letters at your door, but waking up beside you. Not watching from a distance, but holding you close. Not hiding my love, but showing it in every small way I can think of. Thank you for saying yes to me. Thank you for taking a chance on this quiet librarian who fell in love with you from the first moment he saw you smile through your grief. Thank you for being patient while I found my courage. And thank you for being brave enough to love again. This is the last letter. From now on, every day is a love letter. Every morning coffee, every shared meal, every quiet evening, every laugh, every tear, every ordinary moment. Our story isn't ending. It's just beginning. Happy Valentine's Day, my love. Yours always, Michael. I look up to find him watching me from the doorway, that gentle smile on his face. No more letters, I ask. No more letters, he confirms. Just us. Every day. For the rest of our lives. That sounds perfect, I say. And it is. Because sometimes love doesn't come in a lightning bolt. Sometimes it comes in quiet moments and patient years and letters that arrive like clockwork. Sometimes love waits 14 years to reveal itself. And sometimes that's exactly the right amount of time. The end. Thank you for listening to the Valentine's Day Letters. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to Moonlit Romance Audiobooks for more heartwarming, clean romance stories. And happy Valentine's Day to all of you who believe that love, like good things, is worth waiting for. Until next time, keep believing in second chances.